Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive with us.
Always fun.
Today, we're going to be looking at inner child work.
Okay.
And we've got this really fascinating transcript from a class
Mm-hmm.
that was led by Angela, who's coach and counselor.
Yeah.
But what makes this one really interesting
Right.
is that she's a heart transplant recipient and a
Wow.
cancer survivor.
Oh, wow.
And those experiences really led her
Yeah.
to kind of go deep into this inner child work.
Yeah, that's fascinating because I would think that a lot of people kind of avoid that
Right.
kind of stuff, but to have that kind of life or death experience, I would think that would really bring it to the forefront.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like it ripped the Band-Aid off all those
Yeah.
deeply buried emotions that
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
she had been ignoring or didn't even realize were there.
Yeah. And so what is this concept of the inner child?
Yeah, so the inner child is that part of us
Okay.
that holds on to the emotions and the experiences from our childhood, like a little time capsule frozen in time.
Oh, okay.
And, when you're going through something really major in your life, like she was facing her own mortality,
Yeah.
it's like unraveling a tangled ball of yarn
Okay.
where each thread represents a connection back to those past experiences.
Oh, so you start to see how maybe all these different things are all really fetid.
And it's revealing how they've been subtly but powerfully influencing your present.
Interesting. So it's not just that we have baggage from childhood,
Right.
but it's that this baggage is actually affecting everything that we do today.
Yes, and we may not even realize it.
Wow.
It was like it's operating on a subconscious level.
So how does she say that this manifests in people's lives?
Well, one of the really interesting things that Angela points out
Okay.
is that while inner child wounds affect everyone,
Yeah.
they can often manifest differently in men and women
Okay.
due to, just the way society conditions us
Makes sense.
and the expectations that are placed upon us.
Right.
So for women, it can often lead to what she calls the perfectionism trap.
The perfectionism trap.
Have you ever heard of that?
Oh, yeah. I think we all know a few people who
Yeah.
fall into
So
that.
what does that actually look like?
Yeah. What does that actually look like?
It's not just wanting things to be perfect, right?
Right.
It's much deeper than that.
Right.
It's this constant striving
Mm-hmm.
to meet often impossible standards,
Right.
to be everything to everyone,
Right.
and to overgive to the point of exhaustion.
Yeah. You're trying to make everyone happy.
Exactly.
And you end up making no one happy.
And this can really impact a lot of areas in a woman's life.
Like what?
Their boundaries,
Yeah.
their careers,
Yeah.
their finances, their self-care, and their relationships.
Oh, wow. So it's really affecting all areas of life.
It really can.
Wow.
And, they may struggle to ask for what they deserve,
Right.
feel like they don't belong,
Right.
prioritize others' needs above their own,
Yeah.
and just end up feeling depleted and resentful.
Yeah, like they're giving, and not getting anything back.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a cycle of people-pleasing and burnout.
And so why is this happening? I mean, what's going on here?
Well, if you think about it,
Yeah.
a lot of girls
Mhm.
from a very young age are told to be polite,
Oh, yeah.
be pretty, be perfect.
Right.
And it sets the stage for this fear of criticism and judgment.
Right. You don't want to step out of line.
Exactly. So as adults, they're still seeking that validation,
Okay.
often at their own expense.
So they're still trying to be the good girl.
Yes. And it's not just about external validation.
Okay.
It becomes tied to their sense of self-worth.
The self-worth.
So they start to believe that their value comes from their accomplishments and external approval
Yeah.
rather than their inherent worth as a human being.
Oh, that's a problem.
It is a big problem.
Okay.
And so they're constantly trying to prove themselves,
Right.
which leads to that classic imposter syndrome.
Oh, yeah. Feeling like a fraud.
Like you're not good enough no matter how much you achieve.
Right.
Angela actually shares an anecdote in her class about this really successful executive
Okay.
who felt like a total fraud
Mm.
despite all of her accomplishments.
Hmm.
And she realized that it stemmed from her childhood.
Okay.
She received very little praise or acknowledgement from her parents growing up.
Oh, so she was never good enough.
So she was always striving for
Yeah.
more, trying to fill that void.
Interesting. And do you think that's common that people who are really successful
Yeah,
actually deep down feel like they're not?
I think it's more common than we realize.
Wow.
And this could be especially pronounced for women who may have received even less praise or acknowledgement for their achievements in childhood.
So they're just constantly trying to prove themselves.
Exactly. And it creates this insatiable need for external validation,
Right.
driving them to overwork, overachieve, neglect their own needs,
Right.
and it leads to work-life imbalance and burnout.
It's interesting how you're describing this need for validation as a driving force. Is that
Hmm.
something that you see in men too?
It is, but it often manifests differently
Okay.
because of those societal expectations that are placed on men.
Like what?
Well, Angela highlights how men are often expected to be strong and suppress their emotions.
Right, like the whole boys don't cry thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I can see how that would be damaging long term.
It can be incredibly damaging
Yeah.
because growing up, being told to hide your vulnerability
Yeah.
can really impact your emotional development.
Makes sense.
And that emotional suppression doesn't just disappear.
Right, where does it go?
It often gets bottled up and can manifest as anger, aggression, or difficulty forming intimate connections.
Oh, so instead of expressing their emotions,
Right.
they just kind of shut down.
They might lash out or withdraw
They
emotionally.
don't have the tools to
Exactly.
explain.
And so they may struggle to connect with their partners on a deeper level,
Mhm.
have difficulty expressing affection, or even unintentionally perpetuate this cycle of emotional suppression with their own children.
Wow, so it's almost like both genders are kind of dealing with opposite sides of the same coin.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
So while women might be struggling with this perfectionism and people-pleasing,
Right.
men might be battling this pressure to suppress their emotions,
Right.
and it leads to issues in their relationships and their overall well-being.
So both are dealing with the consequences of these unspoken rules and expectations that society places on us.
Exactly. And it really highlights the importance of allowing children
Yeah.
to feel seen, heard, and validated for who they truly are.
Yeah, just letting them be themselves.
Exactly, because when those needs aren't met, it can have a lasting impact on their adult lives.
That makes a lot of sense.
So we've been talking about a lot of these gender-specific things.
Yeah.
I'm curious, are there any universal patterns that you see in your work?
Oh, yeah, for sure. One of the most common ones is the need for control.
That makes sense, especially if your childhood was chaotic or unpredictable.
Exactly, when you didn't have that stability as a kid.
Well,
You try to create it as an adult.
you try to control everything around you, your finances, your relationships, your work.
It's like you're building walls to protect yourself.
It is, and it can be incredibly exhausting.
Yeah, I can imagine.
What other universal patterns are there?
Well, we talked about it a little bit, but the need for external validation is another big one.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If you didn't receive consistent acknowledgement or praise as a child,
Right?
you're more likely to seek it from others as an adult.
Like you're always trying to please people.
Exactly, and it can be hard to set boundaries.
And it's like that inner child is still seeking that love and acceptance
Yeah, that they didn't get.
that they may have missed out on.
That's really sad.
It is. And it's important to be compassionate with yourself
Yeah.
if you recognize these patterns in your own life.
So is there anything else that Angela talks about when it comes to this inner child?
Yeah, she actually takes it a step further
Okay.
and introduces this idea of inherited patterns and generational trauma.
Oh, wow. So we're going beyond just our own childhood experiences now.
We're talking about family history and ancestral connections.
Okay, so generational trauma.
Yes. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah.
I don't really know a lot about it, though.
Well, essentially, it's this idea that trauma can be passed down through generations.
Okay.
Angela uses this really powerful visual of examining the lines on your hand as a representation of your lineage.
Oh, wow.
Those lines, those wrinkles, are a testament to the generations that came before you.
Okay.
And what's even more remarkable is that trauma and stress can actually be passed down through generations at a cellular level.
So you're saying we might be carrying not just our own baggage,
Right.
but also the baggage of our ancestors.
It's a pretty mind-blowing concept.
Yeah, it is.
But it's not about blame or shame.
Okay.
It's about understanding that we're part of a larger story, and we have the power to break free from these inherited patterns.
That's empowering.
It's a message of hope and empowerment.
So we're not just stuck with whatever happened in the past.
No, we can rewrite the family script, so to speak,
I like that.
and offer future generations a legacy of healing and wholeness.
So where do we go from here? I mean, we've identified all these wounds.
Right.
How do we actually start to heal them?
Well, that's where the real transformation begins.
Okay.
It's not just about identifying the wounds.
Right.
It's about actively healing them.
Okay.
And Angela stresses the importance of self-compassion and releasing the shame we might carry around these patterns.
So not beating ourselves up about it.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about acknowledging our inner child, validating their experiences,
Yeah.
thanking those old patterns for trying to protect us.
Right.
But ultimately, choosing a new way of being.
Choosing a new way of being.
And recognizing that healing is our responsibility, but it's not our fault.
So it's a journey of self-discovery and growth,
Exactly.
not self-blame.
Exactly. And it's a process that can lead to profound personal and generational transformation.
Yeah.
Breaking free from those self-sabotaging patterns, feeling worthy and whole,
Yeah.
and showing up in the world as our most authentic selves.
That's powerful.
That's the true power of inner child work.
This is really interesting stuff.
It is.
I'm looking forward to diving a little deeper.
Me too.
Yeah, it's like they both come from the same place, you know?
Right.
That need to feel loved.
Yeah, that need for love and security.
Accepted, yeah.
Yeah, and it's amazing how these childhood experiences can have such a lasting impact.
Yeah, and they can really shape our patterns even if we don't consciously remember them.
And I think Angela's story is a perfect example of that.
Right, with the heart transplant and cancer.
Exactly. Like, she didn't set out to be an inner child expert.
Yeah, but life kind of pushed her in that direction.
Yeah, it forced her to face these hidden parts of herself.
And it's incredible how she's turned that pain into purpose,
I know.
helping other people.
It's such an inspiring message of hope and resilience.
But she doesn't sugarcoat it either.
No, she's very clear that it's not easy. This is not a quick fix.
No.
It's about being vulnerable, being willing to cry to forgive, and embrace the messy process of healing.
So it's more than just like reading a self-help book.
Right.
This is really deep work.
It's about showing up for yourself
Yeah.
in a way that you maybe haven't before.
And for a lot of people, that's hard.
It is really hard.
Yeah.
And that's where her program, Pain to Purpose, comes in.
Okay, tell me about this program.
So it's designed to provide a structured framework,
Okay.
a safe community,
Right.
and practical tools to support people on this journey.
So it's not just theory.
No, it's about taking action.
Yeah. And making real changes.
What kind of tools does she use in the program?
Well, she uses a lot of different things.
Okay.
Like guided visualizations, journaling, prompts, mindfulness exercises,
Correct.
group discussions.
Got it.
And one of the core techniques she emphasizes is reparenting the inner child.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah. So it's about giving that wounded part of yourself the love, acceptance, and support that it might have lacked.
So what would that look like in practice?
Like if you imagine sitting down,
Yeah.
closing your eyes, visualizing your inner child.
Okay.
Maybe they're 5 years old, feeling scared or alone. And you can offer them comfort, a hug, just listen to their needs.
That's so powerful.
It's creating a safe space for that younger version of you
To feel loved.
to feel seen, heard, loved unconditionally.
Yeah.
And it can really heal some of those old wounds.
It's like giving yourself a second chance.
Yeah, to have that nurturing and validation.
And she also emphasizes the importance of community in this work.
Oh, that's great.
It's not something you have to do alone.
Yeah, because it can be really isolating.
You can.
Yeah.
So her program offers this space to connect with others
Uh-huh.
who are on a similar journey.
You're all in it together.
Yeah, you can share experiences, offer support and encouragement.
That's nice to have that camaraderie.
It's like a tribe of fellow explorers,
Yeah.
you know,
I like that.
all going through this together.
And she encourages playfulness, too.
Oh, that's so important.
Yeah, healing doesn't have to be all serious and somber.
No, you gotta have some fun
Right. It's about finding that joy and laughter.
and a sense of wonder
Yeah.
that we may be lost along the way.
Right, like when we were kids.
Exactly.
So how do we do that? How do we bring that back?
Well, she suggests things like engaging in creative activities that bring you joy,
Okay.
spending time in nature, listening to uplifting music,
Those are good.
just allowing yourself to laugh and have fun.
It's about being present.
Yeah, and she also emphasizes self-compassion.
Oh, that's so important.
Yeah, it's about letting go of judgment and criticism.
Not just of ourselves.
Right.
But of other people, too.
Of others, yeah. And it's about giving ourselves permission to be imperfect.
I think that's a big one for a lot of people.
It is.
They're so hard on themselves.
Yeah, always striving for perfection.
And then they feel like a failure if they don't reach it.
And it's not realistic.
No.
We're all human. We're all going to make mistakes.
Right.
That's okay.
And she talks about forgiveness.
Yeah, forgiveness is so important.
But I think that's hard for people, too.
It is. It's not easy.
No.
But it's about letting go
Of that hurt.
of the hurt of the anger.
Yeah. And moving forward.
And she also makes this point that ultimately we're responsible for our own healing.
Right. No one can do it for us.
No one's coming to rescue us.
And I think that's empowering,
It is.
but also kind of scary.
It can be. Yeah. But it's about stepping into our power.
Yeah. Taking control.
and creating the life that we truly desire.
I think a lot of people forget that they have that power.
Yeah, they get stuck in victim mode.
Right.
And they forget that they have the ability to change.
So where do you even begin with this?
She suggests starting small,
Okay.
like simple acts of self-care and self-compassion.
Like what?
Maybe taking a few minutes each day to meditate,
Okay.
journal, connect with your inner child through visualization.
Those are all good.
Yeah, and if you're really struggling, it's helpful to seek guidance from a therapist or counselor.
Right, someone who specializes in this work.
Exactly.
So what about this impact on future generations?
Yeah, we talked about how healing ourselves can break those cycles of generational trauma.
Right, so our kids and grandkids won't have to deal with the same stuff.
Right.
That's amazing.
It's about transforming not just our own lives,
Yeah.
but the lives of those who come after us.
Wow, that gives me chills.
It's a beautiful vision,
Yeah.
and Angela really embodies that.
In what way?
Well, despite everything she's been through, she still says, life is so good.
Wow, even after a heart transplant and cancer.
Yeah, and it's a testament to the power of facing our shadows,
Yeah.
embracing our vulnerabilities,
Right.
and choosing to live a life filled with purpose and meaning.
Wow, that's so inspiring.
It is, and it reminds me of that quote,
What is it?
"The wound is the place where the light enters you."
Oh, I like that.
So by acknowledging and tending to those wounded parts of ourselves,
Yeah,
we open ourselves up to a world of healing and possibility.
that's beautiful.
Yeah, it really is powerful.
It makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah, like even after all that, you can still find joy.
And that those tough times can actually be the things that help us grow the most.
So you have to fall apart to really come together.
Yeah, and she talks about how we always have a choice.
Oh, right.
Hmm.
Like we can either stay stuck.
Or we can choose to heal and move forward.
It's about recognizing that we're not defined by our past.
We can create a new future.
And that starts with inner child work.
So, for our listeners out there,
Yeah, what's one small step you can take today?
to connect with your inner child.
What can you do to show that younger version of yourself some love?
Maybe just sit quietly for a few minutes.
Yeah, and listen.
Hear them to what they need.
Or maybe write a letter to your younger self,
Oh, that's a good one.
expressing all those things you wish you had heard back then.
And you could do something creative.
Oh yeah, like paint or dance or sing.
Anything that brings you joy.
Yeah, anything that helps you connect with that playful part of yourself.
There are so many different ways to heal.
But it all starts with taking that first step.
And remember, it's okay to ask for help.
Absolutely, if you're feeling lost or overwhelmed.
Find a therapist.
Yeah, or join a support group.
There are so many resources available.
Angela's program is one.
But there are many others.
And be patient with yourself.
Healing takes time.
There will be ups and downs.
It's a journey.
But every step you take is a step towards wholeness.
And a more fulfilling life.
So keep diving deep, everyone.
And remember, you are worthy of love and healing.
Thanks for joining us.